The opening scene of the movie takes place in Russia, where a family of 3 is spending leisure time by the river. The youngest member, Sergey Eliashkov, brags to his older brother and mother about climbing a tree when German fighter jets suddenly appear overhead. The mother instructs the children to hide in the bushes, but the 6-year-old insists he is not afraid and shoots a slingshot at the planes. To everyone's amazement, he manages to hit the jets, causing them to explode. However, upon looking around, he realizes that his family has vanished. Upon awakening from a terrifying dream, Sergey becomes frightened and summons his mother. At that moment, a knock is heard at his door, causing Sergey to assume it is his mother and rush towards it. However, it turns out to be a neighbor woman in a state of panic, who thanks God for her survival, and delivers the devastating news that Sergey's mother and brother have passed away. The little boy is unable to grasp the gravity of the situation and wishes to remain in the house to wait for his mother. The woman explains to him that their town has been attacked by Germans and advises him to flee. At that moment, a group of soldiers approaches the house where Sergey and the woman are located. The woman instructs Sergey to escape through the window, but unfortunately, she is shot and killed before she can join him. Sergey, who is only 6 years old, is now left alone without any family or friends. As he flees from the house, he witnesses his entire neighborhood engulfed in flames behind him. Despite calling out for his mother, he receives no response and continues to run away from the area. After a period of running, he finds himself in the heart of the forest. The little kid becomes disoriented and calls out for his mother, feeling lost. He spends the night there, and the next morning, while drinking from a river, he becomes aware of approaching enemy soldiers. Sergey, recognizing the danger they pose, swiftly takes cover among the roots of a nearby tree. Despite being startled by the presence of a snake, he remains quiet and motionless, fearing the soldiers more than the snake. After the soldiers finished eating by the river and departed, Sergey scavenged their remaining food to sustain himself for the night. Unfortunately, the little boy had been walking aimlessly for 2 days and was completely drained. Despite his exhaustion, he continued to hobble forward, collapsing occasionally. In his journey, he came across some wild berries, which he ate hungrily. Suddenly, an unexpected explosion startled him from behind. The boy becomes dizzy and begins experiencing hallucinations of someone approaching him from behind. Despite his condition, he remains courageous and informs the individual that he is armed with a rifle and unafraid. After taking a few steps forward, he eventually collapses and loses consciousness. While he is unconscious, 2 soldiers approach him. Later, the scene changes to the Russian army base, where Commander Kuznetsov awaits the return of his patrol soldiers. They return with a young child who is frail and injured. As the soldiers claimed to be on his side, the little boy became more open and introduced himself. When the kid shook hands with the commander, the soldiers chuckled and suggested that he introduce himself too. The soldiers felt a fondness for the child and gathered around him, giving him water and food. Even the commander, who was usually cold, took care of the kid. Sergey's wounds were treated by a nurse named Ketch, who was also charmed by his personality. The kid asked Ketch to draw a tank on his wounds because he dreamed of becoming a soldier when he grew up. The injured soldiers also talked to the kid and felt uplifted by his presence. Sergey was fascinated by the commander's gun and asked him many questions, which the commander happily answered. After removing the bullets, the commander even allowed Sergey to play with his honorary pistol. Sergey proudly showed off the tank drawn on his stomach and boasted about being a soldier himself. The boy's recovery is progressing rapidly. Katya, the nurse, pleads with the commander to allow the boy to remain with the battalion, but the commander opposes the idea, citing safety concerns, and instead suggests sending Sergey to an orphanage. Despite this, the soldiers dedicate all their spare time to spending time with Sergey. He receives numerous visits throughout the day and is provided with food sent by the soldiers' families from distant places. They even allow him to play with their binoculars. On a certain day, a soldier approached the commander with a request to allow a young boy to remain with their battalion. The soldiers had formed a strong bond with the child and considered him as their own, providing them with a reprieve from the burdens of war. Nevertheless, the commander remained resolute in his decision to send the boy to an orphanage for his own protection. The next day, during an enemy assault, numerous soldiers sustained injuries. A vehicle arrived to collect Sergey and transport him to the orphanage. The commander informed the boy of this development and gifted him a wooden honorary pistol. In response, Sergey hugged him, admitting his concern for the commander's welfare. Overcome by the embrace, the commander had a change of heart and implored Sergey to remain with the soldiers as his son. On that evening, the soldiers search for small soldier attire to dress the little boy in. They are thrilled to have Sergey as their guest. The commander awakens Sergey and presents him with the clothes. Once he puts them on, he runs around, resembling an actual soldier, which prompts the others to refer to him as their little soldier boy. While the child is playing, an aerial attack by the Germans targets the battalion. The soldiers swiftly relocate Sergey to a secure location and engage in combat with the enemy. The number of wounded soldiers escalates rapidly. Sergey desires to be useful and decides to bring water to the thirsty troops. One of the injured soldiers requests that Sergey read a letter from his family because his eyes are bandaged. The young boy wants to assist, but he doesn't know how to read. He takes the letter and improvises the content, asserting that the soldier's cow is safe at home. When the soldier disputes that he doesn't have a cow, the others encourage him to play along and chuckle. Sergey reads everyone's letters in a similar way and brightens their mood. This sequence describes a conversation between Katya and the commander, who seem to have feelings for each other, but do not openly express them. Later, Sergey reveals himself as an orderly in the battalion, and the commander teaches him to remove his hat as a sign of respect for a fallen soldier. The following day, Sergey requests that the commander assign him a mission and is entrusted with the duty of delivering letters to the soldiers. He accomplishes the task efficiently and even manages to persuade the troops to dance for his amusement. On a subsequent day, Sergey ventures a bit further from the base with his binoculars and notices a leg moving inside a haystack while playing with them. Hastening back to the battalion, he informs the soldiers of his discovery. Despite initial skepticism, the soldiers accompany the boy and eventually uncover 2 German spies concealed beneath the hay. The child is commended for his quick-wittedness. That evening, the commander presents Sergey with legal documents, formally adopting him as his own child. Sergey recognizes the commander's fondness for Katya and endeavors to return his kindness by escorting him to confess his love to her. However, upon spotting her conversing with another man, they incorrectly conclude that she has taken a romantic interest in someone else. Germans attack the base again. Sergey assists soldiers by providing ammunition, but is told to go to the shed as it is too perilous. In the shed, the commander and others are anxious over the severed phone line to the colonel. A soldier is dispatched to repair the wires, but he is mortally wounded. Sergey inquires about fixing the wires from the dying soldier and does it himself. The connection is restored, and more troops are summoned. The 6-year-old boy saves the lives of everyone. The commander and Katya talk by the river, and he finally professes his love and asks her to become Sergey's mother. Katya is ecstatic, but before she can respond, a soldier interrupts them with a letter informing the commander that they must leave their base. The next day, the soldiers depart for their new location with Sergey, but encounter a minefield en route that damages several vehicles. The commander is injured, and the orderly, whom Sergey had grown close to, perishes in the blast. Sergey weeps and embraces the commander, and they transport the wounded individuals with them as they proceed toward their new base. They reach the other base and meet the general, who praises the boy's intelligence. The next day, their unit is honored with a guard's banner, and the boy receives a badge promising to protect his country. During a brutal attack on their base, the commander is trapped under debris, and Sergey desperately tries to rescue him. With the aid of other soldiers, the commander is eventually rescued. The following day, Sergey attends to the injured commander, having also sustained injuries while trying to save him. The boy becomes an integral part of the team, traveling with them as they move from place to place. The movie concludes with the regiment relocating to another base. In the last scene of the movie, an unseen narrator recounts that the young boy, who had accompanied the soldiers to Stalingrad and onward to Poland, became recognized as the world's youngest ever soldier. The tale of his remarkable courage has since circulated across the globe, cementing his status as a legendary figure.